You can watch from the parking lot, my daughter said, as parents lined up for the graduation ceremony. My grandson looked at me with frightened eyes. I turned away quietly. Then the principal suddenly called my name so loudly that the entire crowd stopped moving. My name is Rebecca Collins. I'm 36 years old, and until that morning, I believed the hardest part of raising a family was learning when to let go. I was wrong. The hardest part was standing only a few feet away from your own child while she treated you like a complete stranger. I work as a middle school librarian in Columbus, Ohio. It isn't a glamorous career, and nobody becomes rich organizing shelves or helping children discover their first favorite book. But I've always believed that changing one young life is worth more than collecting expensive things. Every afternoon, I watch students walk into the library carrying heavy backpacks and even heavier worries. Sometimes they needed a good story more than they needed homework help. Sometimes they simply needed someone willing to listen. That became my purpose. Years before, I had become a young mother. My daughter Ashley was the center of my world. I worked long hours, skipped vacations, and stretched every paycheck because I wanted her to have opportunities I never had. When she grew older, she earned a scholarship to college, met a successful young businessman named Ryan, and married into a family that lived very differently from the way we had. Their world revolved around appearances. Mine never did. At first, I thought the differences didn't matter. I attended every birthday party, every baby shower, every holiday dinner. I babysat whenever Ashley asked. When my grandson Noah was born, I was the one rocking him through sleepless nights while Ashley recovered. I never kept score because that's what family does. Slowly, everything changed. Ryan's parents lived in a beautiful neighborhood filled with enormous homes, private country clubs, and expensive cars parked in spotless driveways. They wore designer clothes without thinking twice. They hosted elegant dinner parties where every plate matched the decorations and every conversation somehow drifted toward money or success. I never felt comfortable there. Not because anyone openly insulted me in the beginning, because I always felt like I was being quietly measured. Ashley slowly began changing too. She started apologizing for my simple clothes before family events. She suggested I buy more expensive handbags even though I never cared about brands. She laughed when I drove my dependable 10-year-old sedan. "You deserve something nicer," she'd say. "I'd rather spend money on books for the kids at school," I'd answer. She'd smile politely. But I could see disappointment in her eyes. She wanted the version of me that fit into her new life. I wasn't that person. I wasn't rich or glamorous, but I had something they didn't expect. I had earned the respect of thousands of students, teachers, and parents simply by showing up year after year. Quiet kindness doesn't make headlines, but it leaves fingerprints on people's lives. I just didn't realize those fingerprints were about to save me. Before I tell you what happened next, let me ask you something. Have you ever felt like your own family judged you because of what you owned instead of who you were? If you know that feeling, subscribe and become part of this community. Share your story in the comments because someone else may need to hear it. If quiet people deserve to be seen too, leave a like and click hype. Now let me tell you about the day everything changed. Noah's graduation should have been one of the happiest days of our family's life. He had worked hard all year. He loved science, played trumpet in the school band, and spent every Friday afternoon helping younger students with reading assignments. I couldn't have been prouder. The ceremony was held inside a beautiful historic high school with tall stone walls and elegant archways that reminded me of old European buildings. Parents filled the sidewalks carrying flowers, balloons, and cameras. The warm summer air carried the sound of excited conversations, children laughing, and the school orchestra warming up inside the auditorium. I arrived almost 40 minutes early. In my hands, I carried a wrapped leather journal for Noah because he loved writing stories. Tucked beneath my arm was a bouquet of blue and white flowers, his school colors. As I reached the entrance, I spotted Ashley. She looked elegant in a cream-colored dress and expensive jewelry. Ryan stood beside her greeting relatives. His parents were already posing for photographs with several guests. I smiled. "There you are," I said. Ashley turned. For a split second, she smiled back. Then her expression changed. She stepped toward me before anyone else could hear. "What are you wearing?" I looked down at my navy blue dress. It looks too plain. I thought it was appropriate. She sighed. You really don't understand, do you? I frowned. Understand what? She glanced toward Ryan's parents. They've invited important people today. I'm only here for Noah. I know. She lowered her voice. Please don't make this awkward. I'm not trying to. You always do. The words hit harder than I expected. I took a slow breath. Ashley, I came to celebrate your son. Our son. Ryan corrected as he walked over. Of course. I said softly. Ashley folded her arms. The reserved seats are already full. I don't mind sitting farther back. She shook her head. No. I blinked. What do you mean? I mean you shouldn't come inside. I stared at her. I don't understand. She looked around to make sure her in-laws were watching. Then she smiled as if she were discussing the weather. You can watch from the parking lot. For a moment, I honestly thought I had misunderstood her. The parking lot. There's plenty of space out there. I'm Noah's grandmother. Ashley answered without emotion. Please don't turn this into a scene. I felt my throat tighten. I would never embarrass Noah. No. She replied quietly. But you embarrass me. I froze. Those 5 words hurt more than anything I had ever heard from my own daughter. Nearby parents stopped talking. A few looked in our direction. Ryan stared at the ground without saying a single word. His parents exchanged small smiles as though nothing unusual had happened. I looked toward the auditorium doors. Students were beginning to line up inside. Somewhere beyond those walls, my grandson believed I was about to cheer for him. Instead, I was being erased. I swallowed the lump in my throat. If that's what you really want, I whispered. I won't argue today. Ashley nodded once. Thank you. I turned slowly and began walking toward the parking lot, holding Noah's gift a little tighter with every step. Behind me, I heard conversations begin again. Nobody stopped me. Nobody asked if I was all right. The only sound I could hear clearly was the steady tapping of my own shoes against the pavement. Then a firm voice echoed across the entrance. Rebecca Collins. I stopped walking. Every head turned. The principal was standing near the front doors looking directly at me. Mrs. Collins. He called again with a wide smile. I've been hoping you'd arrive before we started. I stood still. For a second, I wondered if he had mistaken me for someone else. Dozens of parents turned toward me. Ashley slowly looked over her shoulder. Ryan frowned. Even his parents stopped whispering. The principal walked directly toward me with 2 assistant principals following behind him. Mrs. Collins, he said warmly, reaching out to shake my hand. I'm so glad you're here. I smiled politely. I didn't know you were expecting me. We've been looking for you. Ashley stepped forward before I could say another word. Principal Harris, she said with a practiced smile. I'm Ashley. Rebecca's my mother. I know exactly who you are, he replied kindly. Then he turned back to me. I was worried traffic had delayed you. I hesitated.
I almost left. His smile disappeared.
I'm very glad you didn't, Ashley quickly interrupted. We're actually on our way inside, so am I, Principal. Harris answered.
He looked at me.
Mrs. Collins, would you walk with us?
Before I could answer, Ashley forced another smile.
My mother doesn't need special treatment.
Principal Harris looked genuinely confused.
Special treatment? She's just here as a guest.
He blinked.
No.
Ashley frowned.
No. Mrs. Collins is much more than a guest.
Nobody said another word. The principal glanced toward the auditorium doors where staff members were preparing for the ceremony.
We'll explain everything shortly.
Ashley laughed nervously.
I'm sure there's some misunderstanding. There isn't.
His answer was calm. Confident.
Final.
He excused himself to greet arriving students, leaving all of us standing in awkward silence. Ashley immediately turned toward me.
What was that about? I honestly don't know. Mom, don't play games. I sincere. I'm not. Ryan crossed his arms. If you planned something today, you should have told us. I didn't plan anything.
Ashley looked frustrated.
You always do this. I do what? You act innocent.
I stared at her.
I came here with flowers and a gift.
She didn't answer. Instead, she grabbed Ryan's arm and walked inside with his parents. I remained outside for another moment, trying to understand what had just happened. Then I followed everyone into the auditorium.
The building was beautiful.
Tall stone columns stretched toward an elegant ceiling, decorated with carved wood beams. Sunlight streamed through stained glass windows, covering the polished floor with soft colors. The smell of fresh flowers mixed with old books drifting from the nearby school library. It reminded me why I loved schools so much. They were places where children learned they could become more than anyone expected. An usher greeted me.
Mrs. Collins.
Yes. He smiled.
Please wait here for just a few minutes.
Of course. Ashley noticed immediately. She walked over again.
Why are they talking to you?
I don't know.
You keep saying that because it's true.
Her voice became sharper.
If you're trying to embarrass me today, I'm trying to do the exact opposite.
She looked away.
For a moment, I thought she might apologize.
Instead, she said quietly,
Just don't ruin Noah's day.
I answered softly.
I've spent 16 years trying to make his days better.
She walked away without another word. I watched students begin filling the front rows. They looked excited.
Nervous.
Proud. Then I spotted Noah. He searched the audience. His eyes finally found me. He smiled. A real smile. Then his face changed as he noticed I wasn't sitting with the rest of the family. Confusion spread across his expression. I smiled anyway and gave him a small wave. He waved back before a teacher guided the students into position. The ceremony began with the school band performing the national anthem. Parents stood. Then everyone sat again. Principal Harris welcomed the audience and congratulated the graduating class. I tried to focus on Noah. Not Ashley, not Ryan, not the hurt, just Noah. Halfway through the opening remarks, I noticed several teachers smiling toward me. Mrs. Jenkins from the English department waved. Coach Miller nodded respectfully. The school counselor smiled warmly. Ashley noticed too. She leaned toward Ryan.
What is going on?
He shrugged.
I have no idea.
The ceremony continued. Awards for academic achievement were announced first. Then scholarships. Then community service recognition. Everything seemed perfectly normal. until Principal Harris returned to microphone.
Ladies and gentlemen,
He said, before we present diplomas, we'd like to recognize someone whose work has quietly changed the lives of hundreds of children across our district. Ashley relaxed. She clearly assumed it had nothing to do with us. I assumed the same. The principal continued.
some people seek recognition.
He paused. Others spend years changing lives without asking for applause. A large screen behind the stage lit up. Photographs began appearing. Children reading. Families attending literacy nights. Volunteers handing out free books. I recognized every picture. My heart skipped.
No. It couldn't be.
Principal Harris smiled.
10 years ago, one librarian believed every child deserved access to books, no matter their family's income.
Another photograph appeared. It showed me reading to a classroom full of children. The audience began murmuring. Ashley slowly turned toward the screen, then toward me. Her face lost its color. Principal Harris continued speaking.
That small reading project became the district's largest volunteer literacy program. Thousands of books have been donated. Hundreds of struggling readers have improved. Dozens of former students now volunteer because one person believed in them.
I could barely breathe. Months earlier, the superintendent had called asking whether I would accept a community recognition award during graduation. I had almost declined. Recognition had never mattered to me. She convinced me by saying,
Sometimes children need to see kindness celebrated.
I finally agreed. Then life became busy. I completely forgot.
Ashley had never known. She had never asked.
She had been too busy assuming my quiet life wasn't important. Principal Harris looked directly toward me.
Mrs. Rebecca Collins.
The auditorium became silent.
We would be honored if you would join us on stage.
Every eye turned toward me. I slowly stood. For the second time that morning, the entire room was watching me. Only this time, nobody was looking at me with pity. They were looking with respect. I stood for a moment, almost unable to move. The applause began slowly. One teacher clapped. Then another. Within seconds, the entire auditorium rose to its feet. The sound echoed through the hall until it felt almost unreal. I looked toward Noah. His face lit up with the biggest smile I had seen in years.
He definitely should before anyone else. Not family did.
That's my grandma. He shouted proudly. A few students laughed. Others clapped even harder.
I felt tears filling my eyes. Not because of the applause, because my grandson wasn't ashamed of me. He never had been.
I walked carefully toward the stage while Principal Harris waited beside the podium. As I climbed the steps, he shook my hand warmly. Rebecca, thank you for everything you've done for our students. I only did what anyone should do. He smiled. No, you did far more. The audience became quiet again. Principal Harris picked up a framed plaque. For more than 10 years, Rebecca Collins has volunteered thousands of hours helping children learn to read. She created evening literacy workshops, organized book drives across 3 counties, and personally mentored students who struggled the most. Many graduates sitting here today once attended those programs. The audience applauded again. Then another woman stepped onto the stage. I recognized her immediately. Helen Brooks, the retired superintendent who had mentored me for years. She hugged me gently. I've waited a long time for this day, she whispered. So have I admitted. Helen turned toward the audience. Rebecca refused every award we offered over the years. She always said the children deserved the attention instead. People smiled. Some wiped away tears. Helen continued. When today's graduates were in elementary school, many couldn't afford books at home. Rebecca quietly made sure every child left school with stories to read. She never asked parents for recognition. She simply kept showing up. I glanced across the audience. Ashley was staring at me. Her confident expression had disappeared. Ryan looked equally stunned. His parents shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Several guests who had ignored me outside were now whispering to one another. Principal Harris invited me to speak. I stepped to the microphone. The room became completely silent. I honestly wasn't expecting this, I began. A few people laughed softly. I became a librarian because someone once believed in me when I was a little girl. I decided the best way to thank them was to believe in other children. I looked toward the graduating class. Success isn't measured by the car you drive or the clothes you wear. The room stayed silent. It's measured by the lives you quietly make better. I smiled at Noah. And every child deserves at least one adult who never stops believing in them. The applause returned. This time it felt even louder. Then something happened I will never forget. Noah stepped out of the graduate line without hesitation. He walked straight toward the stage. A teacher started to stop him. Principal Harris gently shook his head. No, he said quietly. Let him. Noah climbed the steps and wrapped both arms around me. I'm proud of you, Grandma. Those 5 words healed something inside me that had been broken for a very long time. I hugged him tightly. I'm proud of you too. The audience applauded again. Across the room I saw Ashley wipe tears from her face. Not tears of celebration. Tears of realization. For the first time she understood what she had almost thrown away. After the ceremony ended, families gathered outside for photographs. People I had never met came over to shake my hand. Parents thanked me for helping their children years earlier. Former students introduced themselves. One young woman smiled and said, Mrs. Collins, because of you, I'm graduating today with plans to become a teacher. Another young man laughed. You gave me my first chapter book when everyone thought I hated reading. Every conversation reminded me why I had chosen my career. Ashley approached slowly. She looked nothing like the confident woman who had sent me toward the parking lot only hours earlier. Mom, I turned. She couldn't meet my eyes. I'm sorry, I waited quietly. I cared too much about what everyone else thought. I know I sten baldier, Ivriand. I was embarrassed by the wrong things. Her voice shook. I embarrassed myself. I nodded gently. Today wasn't about proving you wrong. I know I only wanted Noah to have a beautiful graduation. She wiped another tear away. I don't expect you to forgive me today. I appreciate you saying that. Ryan walked over next. I owe you an apology too. You don't owe me anything. I should have spoken up. Yes, I answered honestly. You should have, neither of us argued. There was nothing left to defend. Noah joined us carrying his diploma. He smiled at me. Grandma, will you be in all my graduation pictures? I laughed through my tears. I'd love that. Ashley looked at him. Of course she will. The photographer gathered everyone together. This time nobody asked me to stand in the back. Nobody questioned whether I belonged. Noah stood beside me with one arm around my shoulders. When the camera flashed, I realized something important. The picture wasn't valuable because everyone was smiling. It was valuable because the truth had finally found its place. Life didn't magically become perfect after that day. Ashley and I spent months rebuilding our relationship. Some conversations were difficult. Some were painful. Real healing takes honesty, not excuses. Ryan slowly became more respectful. He visited my library one afternoon and volunteered during a children's reading event. I could tell he wanted to become a better example for Noah. His parents remained distant. That was their choice. I stopped worrying about winning approval from people who measured worth by appearances. Instead, I focused on the children who walked into my library every day carrying dreams bigger than their circumstances. Noah visited often after school. Sometimes we read together. Sometimes we simply talked. Every time he left, he hugged me. He never forgot that graduation day. Neither did I. People may judge your clothes. They may judge your income. They may even try to convince others that you don't belong. But character has a way of introducing itself when the time is right. Nobody can erase years of kindness with one cruel sentence. If you've ever been pushed aside by your own family,
But character has a way of introducing itself when the time is right. Nobody can erase years of kindness with one cruel sentence. If you've ever been pushed aside by your own family or treated like you didn't belong, I hope you'll share your story in the comments. Someone reading it may realize they aren't alone. Subscribe if you believe quiet strength deserves to be seen, and please click hype to help this story reach someone who needs hope today. Thank you for spending this time with me. If this story touched your heart, I'd truly appreciate a like. Every comment reminds another person that dignity never depends on someone else's opinion. Click hype to help this story reach more people, and tell me where you're watching from. I read as many comments as I can, and I'm grateful you're here.